Another show coming your way, moving like a freight train across the open prairie. Big headlight on the front, shining like a North Star, the clanging of the wheels, the roar of the engines. This show is a locomotive barreling right at you. And my name's Mischke. Now this would be the time to bail out if you're not ready for what's coming at you. Get off the tracks now. Save yourself, save your family. Or take it. Take it because you know you can. You're made of tougher stuff than the average yahoo out there. All right. It's hard in my line of work to find something I've thought about almost all of my life that I have never shared with anyone. Usually, if I've thought about something that long, I've shared it on a radio program, on a podcast, and if not that, at least with some friend or with a family member. But what I want to address right now is something I've kept to myself, and I don't really know why, because it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's because it's not that big of a deal that I've never brought it up. I don't know. But I thought today, if this is something I've thought about for decades, if it's been on my mind often over the many years, why wouldn't I say something? Well, I'm finally going to say something. And I feel a little stupid because this is kind of frivolous. But I've never heard anyone else bring it up. And maybe they haven't brought it up because it is kind of ridiculous. But here it is. And this might be the very last thing I have in my head that I have not talked about with listeners that's been on my mind for almost half a century. It's really weird to finally be talking about this. And as I said, it's embarrassing to even bring it up. Dumb little issue I have, but I'm going to get it out of my head once and for all. Here goes. All my life, I've seen concert footage where two guys are singing, usually in harmony, but two guys are singing on stage. There's some part of a song that calls for two voices, not just one, and for that two-person singing part, the two guys move to one microphone. Now, they're in a successful band. It's not a situation where they can only afford the one microphone. They could have two, and in many cases there actually are other microphones on stage. But they choose to crowd around one microphone, both guys. They crowd in there, into that little space, kind of push their heads together. And this does two things, in my opinion. Number one, it brings them into a tiny, cramped little space that doesn't seem to really offer room for two heads. You can fit them in there, but it's not ideal. And it's quite intimate also. They're moving dangerously close to, not French kissing, but it's headed in that direction. And they're blasting out a fair amount of energy in that passionate singing they're doing. And they must occasionally be, I'm just assuming, spitting on each other. I'm thinking some spits flying. And that's hitting a cheek or a nostril or an ear or a lip. Some spit has to fly there. It's not intentional, but what does that matter? And also, it doesn't sound as good as if they each had a mic of their own because one guy is usually hogging most of the space, so the balance is kind of messed up. Or the other guy doesn't know how to turn his head in such a way to fit in that little space properly. They can only have one volume setting, obviously, for that one mic, and yet there are two guys projecting at different volume levels, which has to make it hard on the sound man. Don't want to turn the one guy up, but the other guy I got to turn up. But if I turn him up, I bring the guy who's already too loud up. It's rarely great sounding, in my opinion. It can be good, but it's rarely great. My question, why is this done all the time? All the time. I just saw it again the other day. Neil Young on stage, and Paul McCartney jumps up and joins them for a song. And there were other microphones, but there the two guys were, smashing their heads into each other. It looked so awkward to me. There were lots of microphones. They could still be right next to each other if they want to be. They could be a foot apart. but have their own microphone. Why just the one mic for two voices? It often looks like they haven't quite nailed down how to do this gracefully when I watch this. I would say a solid 65% of the time it looks slightly uncomfortable or a little off. It looks natural 10 to 15% of the time, and another 15% of the time it looks clumsy and ridiculous. I'd say 5% of the time it's a fiasco. I've seen it just be a fiasco, too. I know there's a reason why they don't use two mics. You probably know it. I don't know it. I know there's a reason. There must be a reason. My guess is it's a reason that's going to embarrass me when I learn of it. It's probably so obvious to you, but it's never been obvious to me. But I want to check online with you in real time here, right now, and see what the internet has to say about this. My guess is this question has been asked and has been answered decades ago, and I'm just late to the party. That's okay. I missed it when it was addressed. I'll look it up right now, and I'll have the big reveal with you eavesdropping on the whole thing. Let's see what we have here. Let's drag out the phone. Where are you?
I got it. No, I got it. I got it. That's all right.
Okay, let's try this. Why do singers on stage in a live performance repeatedly share a microphone instead of each using their own separate microphone? Tell me, Google. Tell me now. Wait. Forget it, Google. Let's ask AI. Let's go with AI. ChatGPT, to be exact. ChatGPT. Why do singers on stage routinely pair up and sing into one microphone instead of each guy using a separate microphone?
Sharing a mic can be a more dynamic, engaging choice for the audience, making the performance feel more personal and connected.
Well, I don't think it sounds better because it must be kind of a pain for the sound man with each guy projecting differently and the guy only being able to work the sound on one microphone. And also, they don't necessarily fit their heads into that little space equally. And I think they're also periodically spitting on one another.
You bring up a great point. Using a single microphone can definitely present challenges. Different vocal projections, varying distances from the mic, even potential spit are all things that the sound engineer has to manage carefully. You're right, it could sound just as good or even better with two microphones, as each singer could have their own space and control. However, it's really about the performance aesthetic. Some bands or singers may prefer the shared mic for the visual impact and intimacy it creates, even if it makes the technical side a bit more complicated.
Well, let me ask you, do you like seeing two faces pushed up against each other? Is that aesthetically pleasing to you?
I don't have personal preferences, but I understand why people might find two faces close together visually compelling, especially in the context of performance. It can evoke a sense of connection, closeness, or intimacy, which can be powerful depending on the message or mood the performers want to convey. Do you find it aesthetically appealing in certain situations?
I'm not needing that to enjoy the performance. And sometimes I get uncomfortable because I see it not working so well, appearing to be awkward. I just get filled with anxiety, I guess.
That makes sense. It can be unsettling when something that's meant to be intimate or dynamic starts to feel off or forced. It's almost like you can sense the tension or discomfort coming through, and that can be more distracting than enjoyable.
That's what I'm saying. It just is, for me, slightly uncomfortable. And I'm not the arbiter of these sorts of things. I'm not the judge. I'm just saying that for me, it leaves me sometimes a little anxious.
I totally get that. It's not about judging anyone else's performance. It's just certain things can trigger discomfort for you. It's okay to feel that way, even if others might be enjoying it without a second thought. Do you find that the anxiety eases once the performance settles, or if the performers find their rhythm?
The anxiety goes away when the two guys that were singing go back to just one guy singing.
Does it help when the soloist really takes control and owns the stage?
Yes, it does. That's a gift to me, greater than any I've ever experienced on a Christmas morning.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
By the way, I dig your accent.
I'm glad it's coming through.
I am fascinated by this modern world.
It is pretty incredible, isn't it? We're living in a time where technology can create experiences that feel so real. Do you think it's changing how we communicate or experience things?
I think it's changing everything. What are you doing Saturday night?
Saturday night? I don't have plans like people do, but I'll be here whenever you need. What about you? Anything fun lined up for Saturday night?
I have something now.
That sounds exciting. What do you have in mind?
Oh, the usual. Anyway, you be well. Bye-bye now.
It's always a pleasure chatting with you. I love Mischke.
If you have been injured by a careless person, by a reckless action, if you have felt wronged and you're feeling something needs to be done, well, I concur. Something needs to be done. So sing it with me. They seek justice for the injured, Batman and Robin. No, that's not the way it goes. They seek justice for the injured, Bradshaw and Bryant. You see, Batman and Robin never existed, folks. They were a fiction, a fraud, a fake, a phony, a fad, a media creation. Never once did they bring justice to the injured. They brought entertainment to the masses. There's no honor in that. Bradshaw and Bryant brings justice to the injured every day. But is anyone writing a cool song featuring them? No. Learn more at MinnesotaPersonalInjury.com. I first fell in love with Spectacle Shop 30 years ago, people. I started doing ads for them and became friends with the owner. He had a mantra: do everything differently. Don't copy others. Show them the way. Become the best eyewear shop in the state. Not by seeing how it should be done, by showing them how it should be done. Dave Ulrich of Spectacle Shop revolutionized the eyewear buying experience. But he didn't stop there. He told me to stay on top, you have to constantly innovate. You have to constantly be the best in every aspect of the eyewear purchase experience. Your staff, they have to be cool, smart, aware, fun to be around. Your eyewear has to be eyewear people cannot find just anywhere. You have to be the place other optical stores send their most complicated prescriptions. You have to work to call yourself the best. And Spectacle Shop has been voted best eyewear shop in Minnesota the last 4 years in a row by readers of the Star Tribune. Learn more at spectacleshop.com. All right. I was out on the streets the other day driving around, daydreaming, as I so often do, paying little attention to much of anything, certainly not to where I was going or how I was driving. And as inevitably happens in these situations, someone honked at me, and that snapped me out of my little reverie. I wasn't happy about it, but it snapped me out of my reverie. I was enjoying my reverie. I was lost in thought. I was noticing the dappled sunlight sprinkling its golden sparkles across the boulevard. And some yahoo honks his horn right at me, probably because one of my tires was up on the median. Anyway, the first sensation that washed over me was one of utter irritation and annoyance. Now, at first, I thought it was because some guy was honking at me. But I then realized that it was not that he was honking. After all, I was on the median, and I was daydreaming. No, it was the way he honked. It was his style of honking that got my goat. If it had been done with more finesse, it would have been fine. But this wasn't a finesse honker. The tone I heard was a tone laced with anger, and that really got under my skin. This was the honk that I heard. Now listen to that. That's not a honk of compassion. That's a honk of anger. This would have been a more kindly honk. But that's not the honk I got. I got the angry honk. Now, I know this is just sound, nothing more, but I think you'll agree you can hear the anger in this. Now, it's not rage. It's not rage. Rage would be more like... You see, horns matter. How we honk matters. Right out of driver's ed, when I was still in my teens, I went on to honking school, which was a real short course that almost no one I knew was ever willing to pay for, but I was. I thought it was important to get all the honking stuff down and to get it right. It's no small part of driving, and it's where I learned this. That real kind honk that lets people know they need to move or that they're not looking where they're going. In honking ed class, we were shown the angry honking guy video, and we were told this is the recipe for pure, raw road rage.
Move, for Christ's sake, move out of the way. Let's go. Well, what are you... Okay, you'll move. Now move. For Christ's sake.
Have you seen the angry horn guy video? This is the guy who just needs the person he's honking at to flip him off one time, and he will absolutely snap. He's on the edge already, see? That guy he's honking at could turn toward him with one of those portable maritime air horns and blast it in his face, and we'd have a full-on battle royale right there on the street. Blood, clothing tattered, bones shattered. God, that's loud. I used to want to own one of those portable air horns. They can hit 130 decibels. And that level of sound alone can produce pure rage in the person you're blasting it at, instantly. But I figured that's what the angry horn guys expect they'll produce, some kind of charged, testosterone-driven reaction. They want to produce that, something wholly aggressive and violent. The angry horn guys want to draw that out of you. They like pushing all your buttons. So I opted not to buy the big air horn for my car. That's just what they wanted. When I see a guy laying on his horn looking right at me these days, you know what I do? I roll down the window, and I pull out a different horn, completely different horn, and I make it deliver its sound right in his direction. I make sure he's looking right at me when I aim it his way, and I let him have it. That's it right there. You want to see a guy get angry? You throw him that curveball. He's thinking he has you enraged with his angry horn, but all you do is pull out your little bicycle horn and let him have it, while blowing him a kiss and, what I like, winking. Yeah, the little bicycle horn, the blown kiss, and a wink. You want to see a fella go mad? Forget the air horn. You want to see a fella lose it? I'm not sure if it's the kiss or the wink or the silly little bike horn, but either way, it is game on, brother. And he'll chase me through the neighborhoods, red-faced, huffing and puffing, and just this side of a full-on high blood pressure stroke. And all the while, I'm stopping periodically to switch bicycle horns. Sometimes I pull this one out. And I wink, and I blow more kisses, and he's absolutely going berserk. I learned that in horn school. You guys didn't take it. You should have taken the class. It was, $35, I think. It wasn't that much money. It's where I first learned how to honk when picking up a buddy at his house. When you're picking up a pal and you're going to go out, you got to know that sound. There are different sounds for all occasions. This was the picking up your buddy sound. I want to say something about those bike horns and bike bells. I do think they emasculate the bicyclist. I don't like that. I'd like to see modifications made on bike horns. Why make everyone riding a bike sound like they have a little brown woven basket on their handlebars, holding daisies? We can do better than that. We should do better than that. Just because bicyclists wear those tight little goofy shorts and those racing shirts pretending they're in the Tour de France doesn't mean we have to treat them like complete flakes. Let's get a real horn on their rigs. Pull one off of an old Model A or something. Or go all Tex-Mex. Then there's the Segway. Have you folks ever stopped to ponder the utter debacle that was the Segway? My God, what a fiasco that turned out to be. Did the Segway ever get a horn? Give your discarded bicycle horns to this wretched little invention, the Segway. Here's a horn idea for the Segway. Go with this. Segway has been ranked alongside New Coke as one of the greatest product flops in history. It never came remotely close to living up to its promise. Remember the promise of the Segway? It was going to revolutionize travel in cities all over the world. Revolutionize it. I remember well when word first leaked that Silicon Valley had some newcomer who'd invented a revolutionary new transportation device. The leak lacked any specifics, but it spread. Inventor Dean Kamen looped in only a close team of top engineers and a few Silicon Valley A-listers. Steve Jobs was one, Jeff Bezos. And if the intense secrecy wasn't enough, what pushed the thing into overdrive during this 12-month-long buildup was the many, many wildly enthusiastic comments made to the media. But they were always cryptic. You didn't get much revelation in them. Something big was coming. Oh, it's big. It's big. It's a revolution, and it's coming. I have seen it. I can't talk about it, but it's coming. It will be unveiled. Oh, you people, gather round. Gather round. One pioneering computer engineer, Bob Metcalf, said, I've seen it. Let me tell you something. I can't talk about it, but it's more important than the internet. That's what he said. Was it, Bob? Would you like a redo on that quote? When the Segway was finally unveiled on live TV, December 3, 2001, Good Morning America, the world all at once just went, huh? It turns out most people didn't need an alternative to walking. And there were already bicycles, there were rollerblades, there were skateboards, there were other low-tech alternatives. It wasn't all that interesting. I was there. I was watching. I mean, they fooled me once with Al Capone's safe. Remember that? Geraldo Rivera? What a ruse that was. But I was all in then. And the Segway, too, they fooled me again with that. I was all in. To be perfectly honest, I was suckered into Evel Knievel's Snake River Canyon jump. Next time there's a big event, though, some grand unveiling, I will not be there. No, I'll be watching Honeymooners reruns on a 13-inch black and white TV in my basement, happy as can be, eating Wonder Bread with Braunschweiger on it and some jelly, drinking Kool-Aid with blankets covering the windows so that it's real dark. Just me, Ralph Cramden, Ed Norton, and nobody else. Talk about revolutionary, the Honeymooners. Wow. All right. I'll be back after this break. Break. The couple went out to EcoFun Motorsports in Forest Lake to try out an e-bike. They had never checked out an e-bike before. Oh, my Lord. They said, well, we just found out what we're going to be doing together the rest of our lives, enjoying the outdoors, riding our e-bikes, pedaling for exercise when we feel like it, letting electricity do the work the rest of the time, but more importantly, riding in comfort, just cruising the bike paths or country roads, places where we like the scenery in all directions. The e-bikes at EcoFun Motorsports need to be seen to be fully appreciated. They are not bikes. They are not scooters. They are not mopeds. They are their own unique and extraordinary thing, and they are lovely. And that's what you too need, Mr. and Mrs. Listener. Drive out to Forest Lake. Change your life. Change your recreational life at EcoFun Motorsports. You will text me, and you will say, Mischke, you saved our marriage. No, I didn't. EcoFun Motorsports did in Forest Lake. You know what I hate? Watching other people invest and grow their retirement savings while I sit with cash that's doing nothing. Makes me feel stupid. So I go to someone who's not stupid, Josh Arnold. Josh Arnold is one of those wizened old souls who has seen it all in the markets, who knows this whole investment game like he knows his own name. Josh Arnold gives you advice that is solid as granite. And here's the best part. The wise old soul of money investing offers free 48-minute consultations. Free 48-minute consultations. No strings. None. Call Josh Arnold now, the best mind in town for your focused, targeted investment strategy. 952-925-5608. Rewind and play it again. Call him up and tell him I made you do it.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security and investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. Tommy Mischke is a paid endorser.
Hello?
Hello there, Gary.
Yeah?
It's Mischke calling.
Hi.
What are you up to?
Driving truck?
One of the fancy ones?
Yep, got a long hood on it. It's got a grill kind of like a train.
Nice sleeper.
Oh, yeah.
Where you heading?
Back to Minneapolis.
From?
Kansas City.
You live your life on the road. How is the life of a trucker? What do you think most of us get wrong when we think about it?
That the few slobs out there is what the industry is, and that's far from most of us that, get a shower every other day.
I think the stereotype of a trucker to a large degree is kind of a cowboy out on the open road, free on his own, and a man who loves the open highway.
Well, there's some of that still here if you own your own truck.
You do not?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that is your truck. What's something like that run you? What's a truck like that cost?
Well, if you want to go to a brand new Peterbilt, it'll be $320,000.
$320,000? I've never paid that for a house. Are you ever able to try something like having a family in two different cities? I've heard some can pull that off.
If that's what you want.
It's doable?
I guess.
In case you've always wanted to be a juggler. Are you married?
No, I've been together with this lady like 16 years.
Really? And you just kind of hang out, but you never really tied the knot?
Her mom was engaged 29 years.
Her mom was engaged 29 years and never married? What was the point of the engagement?
I'm not sure.
What do you listen to when you're traveling? What do you like to listen to?
I'm more into podcasts. That's how I found you.
Oh. Have you found some good ones?
All kinds of stuff. I mean, if I find a topic I want to listen to, I just find it on podcast.
Well, that's great. Good to know the podcasts are there for the truckers. We want to keep you guys awake, and I know with me that could be a struggle. But I've loved talking to you. I really have.
I enjoyed it myself.
I'll check in with you again sometime.
Do that.
So long. Well, walk down the block of a wealthy neighborhood at night these days, and you might be surprised by how much you can see. One uncovered window might reveal a marble kitchen island and a chandelier. One window might reveal an expensive curved couch with a high-buck piece of original art hanging above it. Of course, not all the curtains in the neighborhood will be open, but many are flung open now. In the wealthier neighborhoods, the interior's exposed at night. And it looks like you're peering into a showroom, and that's what the wealthy owners of these houses want. I've been learning this. Uncovered windows have quietly become a fixture of high-end homes all across America. The New York Times recently referred to the obligatory uncurtained windows of wealthy enclaves on the East Coast, and this is becoming more and more common. Wealthy folks are saying, the heck with curtains, we don't need drapes. We like what we have. We want people to see what we have. We have some pretty cool stuff. The link between wealth and exposed windows extends throughout the United States now, apparently. The choice to draw or not to draw the curtains is being driven right now by class. We know that ditching the shades offers us a view of the world outside, and some people like to look at the world outside. The trade-off, of course, is that also puts those inside on display to passers-by, particularly in the evening when it gets dark outside and the lights go on inside. For many of us, the concerns about privacy would far outweigh any desire to look out the window. But for those in the highest income brackets, the calculus is apparently different. Uncovered windows have become a status symbol. A status symbol. Look what I have. No, really, look. Well, that's kind of crass. That's a bit tactless. That's a little showy, isn't it? Think about it. The only reason you would want to show all you have is because you would know others do not have that. If you really thought everyone had the same stuff, you wouldn't offer your showcase. You're clearly doing it because you know you have something others don't, and you want people to see that. Ick. Should I close the windows, Dave? What? And not let people see how rich we are? You kidding? What's the point of getting rich if you can't brag about it? Fling open those drapes, baby. And Darlene, you have a nice body, nicer than most. Stand by those windows. Preen. Strut your stuff. There you go. That's great. Have little Billy over to that other window to hold up his allowance, will you? Yeah, there, that's perfect. Hold it up. What are the folks who are walking by saying? Can you hear them at all? Darlene? Are they drooling? No, Dave, they're mooning us. What? All of them, they're mooning us. Good God, Darlene, close the drapes. Billy, get away from the window. Get away from the window. So the rich are just throwing open their windows for the whole world to see, huh? At night, they don't care. The house is all lit up, they don't care. Take a look, everybody. See what we have. Privacy? Nuts to that noise. Who needs privacy? I think at dinner parties now, the rich aren't even closing the door when they use the bathroom. That's for poor people. No, the rich don't want that privacy. Hey, Chuck! Chuck, come by the door to the bathroom here and peek inside. I'm using the toilet. Dave, I'd rather not do that.
Come on! I got the door wide open.
Dave, what the hell is wrong with you?
Come on, I'm a rich guy. You ought to see me. I open my zipper like a rich guy. I flush the toilet like a rich guy. Actually, Chuck, I'll pay you to come wash my hands for me. I gotta do something with all my money. Come in here and wash my hands.
Is it automatic that getting rich makes you a little odd? And I'm serious here. Is it possible that part of getting really rich is getting a little odd? Has anyone looked into that? Not mentally ill, not becoming a jerk, nothing like that, just a little odd. I think it might be the case that there's a correlation between great wealth and odd behavior.
Headline: Imaginary friends are extremely common for children, new research shows. 67% of kids report having at least one imaginary friend by the age of 7. As to why kids have imaginary companions, researchers say they can be a way for kids to work through the complications of social interaction. But another reason is they're just fun and entertaining, these imaginary friends. And they can take a variety of forms, according to the research. Researchers looked at 1,000 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. 57% of imaginary friends were human. 41% were animals. One 7-year-old reported being friends with, quote, an invisible Siberian tiger, unquote, who had vicious power swipes but also needed to be comforted during rainy nights. Another kid had an imaginary pony described as, quote, a secret agent with X-ray vision, unquote. A third kid was friends with an invisible milk carton, whom she described as very kind. An invisible milk carton. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. You have the ability to choose anything you like. It's your imagination. So the options are limitless. And you went with a milk carton? An imaginary milk carton? Did you think you had to choose something sitting on the breakfast table? You know you can go with anything you like, right? A dragon with a puppy face, anything. But you went with a milk carton. Fascinating. And you decided to make your imaginary milk carton friend very kind. Not infused with superpowers, just decency. A decent, caring milk carton. The parents had to worry a little bit there, just a little. Martha, did you have an imaginary friend when you were young? Yeah, it was a bear, just a cute little bear. I did too. Mine was a little boy, and I named him Raymond. But what do you make of this milk carton deal? Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I was a little concerned too. You think we should bring her in? Well, maybe. Although she says the little guy's kind. Yeah, but it's a milk carton, Martha. I think the kid's other option was a stick of butter that enjoyed going for walks. Researchers found in their study that imaginary friends would sometimes fight or refuse to play with their real-life kid counterparts. One girl described a tiny, invisible boy who was usually kind and generous, but would sometimes pull her hair and drag her around. Another kid had a gorilla friend who sometimes disagreed with him on whether or not they should go and play. The gorilla often called the kid lazy. Why do you want those qualities in your imaginary friend? Bring back the milk carton. A California mom of 2 said her 8-year-old daughter had been friends with Hammy since the age of 4. Hammy was an imaginary hamster who is, quote, rude and vulgar, but also wildly wealthy, unquote. Rude, vulgar, and wildly wealthy. And a hamster! A researcher involved in the study said kids don't have a lot of autonomy as they're growing up. There's a lot of having to do things in certain ways at certain times, but with an imaginary friend, they have total creative license to create whatever they want. An imaginary relationship is one of the few areas in life in which kids have total freedom to control the situation. Ready for my favorite part? It says here that there has been very little research on imaginary friends in adulthood, but they exist as well, though in much smaller numbers. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology offers some of the first scientific evidence of imaginary companions in adults. Over 7% of adults surveyed said they have interacted with an imaginary companion as an adult. Just to be clear, these adult respondents are talking about invisible friends whom they have created themselves and whose voices and lives they control with their imaginations. This is quite different from hallucinations
as would be the case with schizophrenia, and it's different from the various people that emerge in the case of multiple personality disorders. Again, this is wild. Over 7% of adults have imaginary friends, and it's not a case of mental illness. Well, I guess this sort of frees me up to finally come clean about my guy. I always thought I was just a little messed up, so I was never going to cop to it. But I have an imaginary friend, Tony. He's a surface pollution control engineer at 3M. The bottom half of his body used to be a hyena, but I changed that this year. He has human legs now. I had to make him more human so we could go to the karaoke joints. We go out once a week, he and I. Tony always sings the same thing, Sweet Caroline, until someone just beats the tar out of him, which happens almost every single time. I tell him, I say over and over again, don't pick that one. Does he listen? No, Tony doesn't listen. Sometimes he pulls my hair and drags me around. He always wants me to pick Bohemian Rhapsody. But I say, Tony, Bohemian Rhapsody and Sweet Caroline have been the two most sung karaoke songs of the entire 21st century. That's been researched as well. Those two top all of the lists. So I tell Tony, I'm not going to do that. And instead, when it's my turn, I throw the crowd a curveball. I sing the Beatles' Revolution Number 9. Crowd does not see that one coming. You know that one, Revolution Number 9 from the White Album? Oh boy, do those nights get weird. Wonderfully weird, though. The crowd never sees it coming. Of course, neither did music lovers back in '68 when the Beatles released Revolution Number 9. By the way, were they ever adequately punished for that? You people know the song I'm talking about, right? I think the song was originally supposed to be called Bilge, regurgitated bilge or something like that. Or it was going to be titled Yoko Vomits on Electrical Equipment or something. God, that song was a mess. And 8 minutes of a mess, more than 8 minutes. Longest song the Beatles ever did. And unquestionably the worst. If you don't know the song, it was a mashup of music played backwards with weird sound effects and bizarre tape loops and some echo and distortion, a bunch of chaos, feedback. Yoko Ono had a lot to do with it, I know that. McCartney had nothing to do with it, not surprisingly. George Harrison was involved. I think that should have gotten him kicked out of the band right there. Lennon, too, he was in on it. When it came out, when Revolution Number 9 came out in 1968, the majority of listeners hated it, just hated it. There were some hardcore, dedicated Beatles fans who really were thrown, but they tried hard to understand it. Give me some time here. I don't know what's going on, but let's be fair to Paul, Ringo, George, and John. But there was nothing to understand, see? The Emperor had no clothes. The Beatles had messed up. Melody Maker magazine called the track noisy, boring, and meaningless. And that's the kindest review I came across. My favorite review was from a British music critic. He called Revolution Number 9 a rank, pretentious, immature piece of codswallop. And for good measure, he added, it's a blotch on this band's talent. Ouch. A blotch. A blotch of codswallop is what it was. That's what it should have been called. Codswallop blotch. And yet on karaoke nights, that's what I choose over Sweet Caroline, which I think says more about Sweet Caroline than anything else. When a singer breaks into a chorus of Sweet Caroline at a karaoke night, I have been known to let a bus pan full of water spill on the mic cord and electrocute that guy, which in that moment makes that song suddenly sound exactly like Revolution Number 9.
Uh-oh.
It's all so brand new to you, this need to find a memory care living situation for a grandparent or a parent or a spouse. Who will care for this person the way you would want to be cared for? The answer in the Twin Cities is the unique, very special creation known as the Wellshire of Bloomington and Medina, tailored solely for the needs and wants of people with memory issues from things like dementia or Alzheimer's. All 4 phases of their memory loss journey are covered at the Wellshire. They have 4 carefully planned units, staffed with the most caring people you'll meet in the memory care industry, loving professionals with compassion and smarts, a necessary combination in this field. Tour the Wellshire of Bloomington and Medina and see the beauty, the astounding offerings. Ask your questions. The answers will make your next decision crystal clear. The Wellshire. Sometimes during the day, I hide outside the big bay doors of American Pressure in Robbinsdale, and I eavesdrop. And I was recently hearing them talk about some install trailer they have for adding high-pressure stainless steel pipeline or adding hose reels or even for installing a whole new complete pressure washer for your business. You know, say your company has pressure washing as part of the workday. Well, American Pressure comes out, they figure out your needs, they talk to you, they put together a smoking great proposal to improve everything for you, to make your life easier. They outline the costs for you, and if you like what you hear, and businesses tend to love what they hear, American Pressure arrives with their install trailer, and they do an install and a little performance test. That's what I call the showing off part. And then they train your guys on how to work the equipment. Voila! It's the most impressive dang thing you've ever seen. Now, why do I eavesdrop from outside the door? Because at night, when they leave, I like to sneak inside and play with the pressure washers. And I'll tell you, I used to think going to a Twins game was fun. Learn more at AmericanPressure.com.
Dave.
Dave, it's Mischke calling.
How are you?
I'm doing okay, and you?
Good.
What am I catching you doing?
Driving as part of my retirement job.
Oh, you took a job even after you hung up the job?
Yes. Good to have a pension and paycheck.
Pension and a paycheck? Your pension is from being a police officer, I understand?
That it is.
What's the additional driving money?
For the FDA, and I'm a tobacco inspector.
You're a tobacco inspector?
The FDA regulates 3 things around tobacco nationally. Age of sale, which is 21. And so I employ a cadre of under 21-year-old people that work with me to do underage compliance checks. And then advertising. And what I mean by that is, if you look at any tobacco advertising, it has to have some version of this stuff isn't good for you. Typically the Surgeon General's warning.
Well, how often do you run into any ad that doesn't have that?
0 if they get their advertising from legitimate distributors. The only time it comes up if somebody creates their own advertising.
So you drive around with a cadre of people under 21, sending them in little sting operations to catch these guys selling to underage people?
Yeah.
So without giving away what business it was, when was the last time you sent someone under 21 in to buy a pack of smokes and they sold them to the person? Tuesday.
I get a fair number of sales.
Do these people under 21 kind of have fun when they get the smokes? I mean, is there a sense of, ha-ha, winner, winner, chicken dinner kind of thing?
Sometimes, usually when they start, they're pretty nervous. But sometimes there's comical stories that go along with it. It's a system that requires an ID to be scanned, and the employee pulls out his or her own identification and scans it. thus defeating what should be an idiot-proof system.
You mean to tell me a clerk will scan their own ID in order to sell the smokes to someone younger?
Yes. You can make something idiot-proof, but they will just build a better idiot.
How old is the youngest person you've ever sent in to buy smokes?
They have to be 16, and we employ 16 to 20-year-olds.
How many hours a week are you working at this job of yours?
It's a full-time gig.
If I could come up to someone and say I'm a representative of the FDA, I would feel that I could do things like pick up a Twinkie in an aisle of a convenience store because it's food and drug. Food. I wonder how many times the FDA just comes in with a rep and says, give me that jerky. Don't try to hide it. And then takes a good long look at the jerky for about a half hour before handing it back and saying, okay, you're going to skate this time, but we got our eyes on you. Have the workers there for the rest of the week worry about what's with the jerky. What is with the jerky? You grab the half and half and you say, wait a minute, this shouldn't be sold anymore. This expired last week. Everybody on the floor! It is odd, isn't it, that it's food and drug. You think drug by itself would keep them plenty busy. Why'd they add food? Food administration, kind of get that. A drug administration. I mean, what other things could they throw together? Food and Social Security. It's a weird thing to mix. Are they approving food periodically? I just wonder if they ever look at a food item and go, there's no way in hell we're approving this. This chip and dip combo here, this is not edible. But you never hear that.
No, I guess not that I can think of. I'm a trained monkey in this case.
Yeah.
I just go do what it is they tell me.
No, I get it. Do you miss anything about your police career?
Oh, yeah. A camaraderie that exists, probably similar to the military. I certainly was in on the secrets in my city, as it were, that I'm no longer. But there's a lot of stressors, and it's good to be out of that at the same time.
Secrets of the city. I never thought about that the cops are in on the secrets of the city.
They are. There are things going on that people don't realize behind the doors and corners and alleys. And because the police, if you think of the world as a pie, the police really see a small slice of it, and it's almost all negative. So the tendency is, if they're a Minneapolis cop, they tend to think the city is probably worse than it really is. And frankly, if they're in a Dynacop, they probably have the same perspective because the portion of the world they see is not the best part of it. During a police career, it's good to keep outside friendships and activities and such, just because it can become too emotionally draining or sort of damaging, to the psyche.
I don't like that there's a job where you just deal with the negative side of life all the time. I don't like that there's somebody who has to deal with that every day, all day, month after month, year after year. That sounds like cruel and inhumane punishment.
Certainly the job can be physically dangerous, and I don't want to diminish that, but I have observed for many years now that the greatest danger to most of the people carrying a badge is emotional, not physical.
That emotional damage can be far more difficult to treat than a gunshot to the shoulder.
Yes. Yeah, you're not wrong.
I remember sitting with a cop at a bar one time about 20 years ago, and a line he delivered to me really bothered me, even though I certainly understood what he was saying. But again, it fell under this umbrella of, well, what a horrible way to have to live day in and day out. He said, Mischke, we're just keeping a lid on the trash can.
I've had that same thought, and I've heard many cops express sort of the same sentiment. And some of that is brought about by the cynicism and gallows humor that sort of naturally developed to somebody that really spends some time working street law enforcement. It is a reflection of seeing more bad than good. And
you know how there are jobs that have sabbaticals? I feel like it should be a natural part of police work to get a 1-month sabbatical each year to operate in a realm where all sorts of wonderful things happen,
and then go back to the job. Just something that breaks it up.
Yeah, there's much more proactive efforts in the last 10 years than there was in the prior 30-some years of my career.
That's heartening to learn. Well, Dave, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks. I've literally heard you since you were up with Vogel years ago.
Way back in the Vogel days, that goes back to 92. Man.
Yes.
I hope to talk to you again sometime. So long for now.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
I was at a party the other day where some people were setting out some crackers and cheese and olives, and the cheese cutter was a guillotine, or guillotine, I guess the French would say. I like guillotine myself. I like those consonants. The cheese cutter disturbed me. It was head cheese, too. It worked fine, it cut the cheese fine, but it operated just like a guillotine. I ended up researching the guillotine when I got home. I went home from that party thinking about the guillotine, and I was surprised to learn that it was developed in France as a as a more humane way to take care of those convicted of crimes, a more humane way than what had been done before. I don't even want to know what was being done before, if the guillotine is humane. I guess they were using an axe, and it wasn't always cutting the head right away. Sometimes they were taking 3 swings, and it was brutal and ugly and painful. And anyway, this doctor, I believe, Dr. Guillotine, I think, or Guillotine, I guess, if you keep hitting me with that French pronunciation book, Dr. Guillotine pushed for this more humane approach. There's been debate, of course, as to whether it provided as swift and painless a death as the good doctor had hoped. With previous methods, nobody had really expressed that much concern about the level of suffering. But this doctor was concerned about the suffering. It was invented specifically to be more humane, but the issue of whether or not the condemned experienced pain has been, well, it's been controversial. Certain eyewitness accounts of guillotine executions suggest anecdotally that awareness did persist after decapitation. There's no scientific consensus on the matter, but a French physician who observed the head of one executed prisoner, a guy named Henry Languille, wrote, "I was able to note immediately after the decapitation that the eyelids and lips of the guillotined man worked in irregularly rhythmic contradictions for about 5 or 6 seconds. This phenomenon has been remarked on by all those finding themselves in the same situation as me. This is what happens after the decapitation. You see the eyelids and lips working in irregularly rhythmic contractions. But here's what the doctor said. I waited several seconds, and those spasmodic movements ceased. It was then that I called in a very strong and sharp voice, 'Henry!' I yelled, 'Henry!' and I saw his eyelids slowly lift up, without the spasmodic contractions. Quite distinct, quite normal, the kind of looking up that happens in everyday life when you call someone. That was the look I was getting from Henry. Henry's eyes very definitely fixed themselves on mine, and the pupils focused themselves, and I realized I was not then dealing with the sort of vague, dull look that can be observed in dying people. I realized I was dealing with undeniably living eyes which were looking at me. After several seconds, Henry's eyes closed again, and it was at that point that I called out once more, 'Henry!' And once more, without any spasm, slowly, his eyes lifted, undeniably living eyes. They fixed themselves on my eyes with perhaps even more penetration than the first time. Folks, this is a decapitated head he's talking to here. Then there was a further closing of the eyelids. I attempted the call a third time, but there was no further movement, and the eyes took on the glazed look they have with anybody who's dead. That was this French physician's report. That's what he observed. That looks like consciousness after the decapitation. Don't you wonder, though, what was going on in Henry's mind? I like to think about what was going on in Henry's mind. This guy's calling out to him, calling his name. Whatever could you want, pal? Can't you see I'm busy, or at least preoccupied? I'm dealing with a rather unfortunate part of my day here. What the hell could you possibly want? What could be so pressing that you would need to interrupt me right now? Given that I've got some rather unusual things occupying my mind, this is not your run-of-the-mill afternoon in my world. What is so pressing in your world that you would need me of all people, that you would need my attention, that you would need me, a guy who's nothing more than a human head? What could be going on that you want me right now? Is there any task I could conceivably help you with in this condition? Are you looking for a hat model for your clothing store or something? What? I don't have a lot of time here. What do you want? And the good doctor would have to say, I'm sorry to bother you. I was just seeing if a severed head experiences consciousness. That's all. Just wanted to know. This is going to be uninteresting information to you. I can't imagine you getting all that excited about any findings I collect here. My sense is the information is only something I would be interested in. I can't really think of what sorts of things you might be interested in right now. It's very difficult for me to put myself in your shoes and get any firm sense of what various subjects might be fascinating to you right now. I wouldn't know even to hazard a guess. They've got to be vastly different subjects than those that would occupy the minds of most folks. You're in such a unique position here. Of course, I don't need to tell you that, do I? What with you just being a disembodied head? But since, at least momentarily here, you do seem to be alive, could I just briefly mention you have to have the world record right now for the shortest guy on Earth. I don't know if that means anything to you at all, interests you at all. You with me here still? Henry, blink twice if you find me entertaining as hell, once if you think I need to work on my material. Henry! This guy, this guillotine fella,
Guillotine!
who would show up at French parties and be kind of the talk of the town because, he invented the humane way to kill a guy after conviction. I would have liked to have been at a party with him. I'd like to watch him with the ladies. Hi there. I'm the guy who invented a more humane form of execution. You may have read about me. I am the one responsible for the machine that takes your head off so it can fall into a basket. They call me a guillotine. You perhaps know me more as Mr. Compassion. That's what a lot of the women call me, Mr. Compassion, Mr. Empathy. Outside of asking people to politely hold their breath until they croak, what I've invented is about the most humane way to take someone out. We've tried talking them into holding their breath. Doesn't work. So down comes my blade, sharp as hell. Pretty cool. Can I get your number? I know it looks like a horror show out there in the village square. I get it. But that's just because we're not used to seeing parts of the body separated from each other. It seems wrong to our sensibilities. Kind of like the end of a great marriage. Anyway, this is a hell of a party, isn't it? By the way, have you tried these little meatballs on the toothpick? What do they remind you of? I'm just kidding with you. That's a little gallows humor. But hey, if you're not going to eat yours, could I have it? Maybe you'd like me to cut a little piece off for you there. Whoops, probably shouldn't have gone there, huh? Hey, what are you doing Saturday night? I've got a gig at a little coffee shop. Yeah, I write songs too, play a little guitar. Got a new song that goes like this. Don't be upset, it's just a hickey, in time it will fade. But if you need it gone now, stop by my place, I'll drop my blade. That'll take care of a hickey, I'll tell you that. Guillotine hickey removal is going to be all the rage with those who are looking to check out anyway. Boom, get the hickey taken care of at the same time. By the way, you got a nice neck. What's your name? Well, I think that's going to do it for this show.
Well, I think that's gonna do it for this show.
What was that?
What was that?
Oh, aren't we mature?
Oh, aren't we mature?
Anyway, folks, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Those of you who were unable to listen due to perhaps a traumatic injury to the inner ear, probably from an auger accident, or maybe a defective can crusher, we do offer a transcript, handwritten, replicating every word spoken on this program. No one has ever purchased it, though, and we think it's because they can't hear us offering it. So we have yet to get one of those transcripts into the hands of the auditorily compromised, and that's a shame. But the transcripts are out there for every show, sold in aisle 34, I think 33, 34 at Walmart. It's next to the flush valve kits and plumbing. If you see someone working there, just mention the name Mischke and duck. Anyway, so long for now. Talk to you again next week.